Hey, what's up guys? Frank here with another video, and today I wanted to compare different vector editor software to find out which one is the right for me, okay? And so in this video, I'm mostly going to talk about Figma, I'm going to talk about Inkscape, and I'm going to talk about Affinity Designer 2. And unfortunately, I'm not going to talk about Adobe Illustrator because for me, I just think it's way too expensive, and there are other alternatives that are way cheaper or even free. And so I'm not going to consider Illustrator. And I know it's too standard or whatever, but I'm not going to go into it. Okay, so let's go right in. So before we start, I just wanted to say that I don't really consider myself a vector editor or vector designer or anything because I'm not really using the software to create designs, because I'm mostly editing designs that are coming from AI, okay? And so I consider myself mostly some sort of AI designer, if that makes sense. And so what I think is that yes, I'm gonna use some of these tools, but in actuality, I'm not really a vector designer, and I'm mostly AI designer, if that's a thing, okay? And so in the end, I'm mostly going to use the software to edit and optimize my designs and my images coming from AI generators. That being said, all of these things might change in the future or whatever, but for now, those are my needs, okay? And so, as of right now, my needs from these software are basically the best value software. I need a transparent background to be able to put my designs on merch, and I need to easily change the colors, and I also need the t-shirt dimensions, which are basically 4500 by 5400 pixels. I also need to scale my images, my vector designs. And sometimes I also need to do some manual work, such as spelling mistakes and fixing those things. So first of all, let's talk about the pricing, okay? Because I want to find the best software with the best value for me, okay? And so Figma has a free version, which is really cool, but most of these subscription are paid. But I figured out a way to use only the free version. So as you can see here, in the free version, Figma is only limited to 3 projects and 3 files, but I figured out a way to make it work, okay? The free version is good enough for me. And so basically it's pretty simple. I'm currently in Figma, and I figure out a way to simply always use the same project, so I don't need to have multiple projects or multiple files. And so basically what I do is that always use this same frame and this same file, okay? And once I'm done with it, let's say for example that I work with it and I'm done with it, then I can simply empty my design, empty my Canva, and then I can start with another project, okay? And so it's just a way to always use the same frame, so I don't have to pay for a subscription or whatever, okay? So for me, the free version is good enough. And then Inkscape, the cool thing about Inkscape is that it is open source and it is completely free, so that's pretty good. And I'm assuming that it's always going to be free. It always has been free and it's always going to be free, so that's a great thing from Inkscape. And then there's also Affinity Designer, which is a great popular vector editing software. And the cool thing about Affinity Designer, is that it's a one-time purchase. You get it once and then you have it forever, I guess, okay? But like right now it is Affinity Designer 2, but I think at some point I'm assuming that they're going to release Affinity Designer 3 and the new software. I'm assuming that we're going to have a new license or some kind of update in order to have the next version of the software, okay? And right now it is $95 in Canadian dollar, but I recently actually I purchased it with the Black Friday deal, so that's pretty cool. I actually purchased it, but if you're looking into this, then that might be something to consider, okay? And then the second thing that I wanted to talk about is related to the t-shirt dimensions, okay? Because I'm going to use the software to create t-shirt designs, and I need some specific templates in order to do that, okay? And in Figma, I can easily create a new design. I can easily create a new design and simply create a frame, and then I can put the right dimensions, create a frame. Okay, then I can start working with this frame without any problem. Okay, and once it's created, I can always use the same over and over again, and that's basically what I've been doing. And then if we talk about Inkscape, what I don't like about Inkscape is that the default here, the default template is some sort of page, normal white page, and if I want to edit these dimensions, I have to go into the document properties, and as of right now, I haven't found a way to create a template to make it like this template, these dimension as default. So I kind of don't like that. I mean, I wish I could have created a template. I mean, there are a bunch of templates here, but I don't seem able to create a custom template or actually save it. So that's kind of bad, okay? But you can always figure it out and start working with this these dimensions. And then in Affinity Designer, the cool thing about Affinity Designer is that you can create a template, and this is pretty cool. And basically I created my template with the right dimensions, and then I can start working with this template. But the bad thing about the Affinity Designer template is that I find it quite weird, because when I want to import an image, I have to choose between linked or embedded, and it's kind of weird because when I import an image, okay, right now the image is there, but I cannot edit it. I have to go into this embedded thing, and it's only in the embedded thing that I can actually start changing and modifying my image. So I kind of find it weird, and so what I have to do is that I have to copy everything and then put my design in the Canva, and then I have to delete the embedded image. So now I can actually work with this. So I kind of find it that very weird. I mean, if I go, for example, in Inkscape and I drag my image in, it actually asks me if I want to include the SVG image as an editable object. And so I wish that Affinity Designer would do this, but it's kind of weird. In Affinity Designer, I can only link the file or embed the file. So I wish I could include the image in an Affinity Designer here, but it is what it is. And then in Figma, I can easily import this and start working with it, and I can start editing the file straight up. So that's really cool with Figma. And so now the next thing that I wanted to talk about is to easily be able to scale my design, okay? And so once it's imported, I need to be able to scale my design to make it the right dimensions in the Canva, okay? And so what I usually use is this the dimensions here. So basically here in Figma, I can lock the proportion of my image, and then I can simply scale it, make it right on my Canva. And so I really love this. And you can also play with this thing here, but I have to hold shift, because if I don't hold shift, then it goes crazy like this. So I want to keep the proportion, so I kind of use that. And then in Affinity Designer, I can also do the same thing. In this case, in this software, I have to hold Control instead of Shift, but I can work with it, okay? So that's really cool. And then I can put my design with the right proportion in my Canva. So I kind of like that. And then in Inkscape, I can also do the same thing using control, and I can also use the width and the eighth in the top, and you just have to make sure to lock the ratio here, and then I can place it on my Canva. And actually, I forgot to say it, but in Affinity Designer, I can also lock the ratio here in the bottom, and then I can change the ratio to my needs. Okay, so that's really, really cool. And so the next thing that I need is to easily be able to remove the background, and it's usually quite simple. You simply have to double click on the object, the background object, and then you can simply delete it using the delete button. And then what I use also is simply remove the white background in order to see like if I'm missing some places, and so then I can come and delete these special spots in the letters so that I can remove the background properly. And then in Affinity Designer, what you can do is use the tool, the artboard tool, I think it's called, and you can simply select the document and you can change the color to make it black so that you can select the things that are happening inside of it. So now I can see that the image is fine. So right now, as you can see, like the embedded thing, like I don't like it. So the best thing to do would be to cut everything here, delete this, delete the embedded thing, and then copy everything here. So that's what I mean. I think the embedded thing is quite annoying. So now I can actually work with this. Okay, and now I can see the background, and then I already removed the thing here, but that's what it is. And then in Inkscape, what you can do here is simply go into the document settings and simply change the color to make it black. Okay, so now I would need to remove the background. You can remove the background, and then you can remove also these things. Book and book. There you go. Now I would be able to have a transparent background. It's just that I use a black background to make sure that everything looks nice. And then the next thing that I wanted to talk about is related to the color management, okay? Because one of the bad things with AI is that when you have colorful images, they tend to create a lot of images and all sort of colors inside the image, okay? And so for example, here you can see that the reds, there are multiple kinds of red, if that makes sense, okay? And so sometimes it's useful to easily change the colors to make sure that it looks okay. You can see the cone. There are different types of colors inside the cone, so color management can be quite useful. And so one thing that you can do in Figma is you have access to all the colors on the right here, okay? And then you can simply select all the colors. Because as you can see here, there are many colors for the same thing. That's one of the default. And so what you can do is simply copy paste a bunch of codes like these and simply start changing the color to have less color. And here, for example, you can select all of this color at once, and you can change the color. And so, for example, I know that this color here is basically everything related to the outline and the text, and so I can easily change it to black. Okay, so that's something that you can do. And also this one, you see, this one is kind of weird sometimes. You see, there's some sort of purple inside this cone. So what I would love to do with this is simply change the color to make it some sort of brown, okay, to make it sure that it looks good on the t-shirt and on the design. And so that's one of the default and flaw of AI, but I want to be able to change the color like this to make sure that my design is good looking. And Figma allows you to easily do that. But in Affinity Designer, I haven't found an easy way to work with this, okay? And so there's a way that I found. I'm going to show it to you. And basically, you have to go into the swatch, you have to go into the palette and create a palette from document, and it's only from here that you're able to see all the colors in the document. But I find it really difficult to play with the colors. I mean, yes, you can play with the colors, but I just find it really difficult to like select all the colors all at once and to simply play with the colors. And there's this palette, but it's not optimized for what I'm trying to do here, okay? Also, another thing with Affinity Designer is that to select all the object with the same color, you kind of have to select the color individually, and you have to go into select same, and select fill colors, and then you're able to select all the, in this case I'm selecting purple, but I find it difficult. And then you can change the color to make it black, so that's a way to play with the colors. But overall, I just think it's difficult to play with the colors here, okay? In Figma, I can easily see and select all the colors very easily and edit them using the codes. And in Inkscape, you can also select all the colors. You can select same, select fill color, and then you're able to select all the colors, and then you can play with the colors in the bottom. But the thing that I don't like about Inkscape is that all the colors in the bottom here are not colors from the design. I would love to see all the colors in the design just like Figma does, so that I can edit the colors inside the design. Because you see, there's the purple here that I don't really like, but I would need to change it. So I would select all, fill colors, but now I kind of have to select the same brown as this one, so it makes me a little bit more difficult, because I'm not able to see all the colors, and I haven't found a way to see all the colors in the design, and so that makes it a little bit difficult to play with colors and the palettes. And then the last thing that I wanted to talk about is related to editing some sort of mistake and errors inside my design. And so, as you probably saw, is that there's a mistake in cream here, and basically it's a design about ice cream, and AI sometimes make mistakes, especially related to text. It's a common thing, and so I want to be able to edit my design to be able to make sure that there's no mistake. So right now in Figma, what you can do is simply copy paste the E to make sure that I can put the E there. And I'm not going to go into big details here, but you see, the idea is that you're able to do some minor things in order to make the design great, okay? And so now I could play with it to make sure that this is right, but the idea here is to fix the mistakes, okay? And so in Figma, I'm easily able to do that. I just need to make sure that this is looking good. And then in Affinity Designer, I can also move these things so that I can copy paste the E to make sure that there's no mistake, okay? So again, I would need to make sure that this looks good, but I'm able to do this. And then in Inkscape, I can also select these in order to copy paste this one to fix the mistake, okay? And so now I'm also able to fix the mistake in Inkscape. And so in conclusion, I think that the best software that I can use personally to do what I'm trying to do, okay? Again, I'm not really a vector editing designer or something like that. I mostly use AI, and then I simply do a bunch of little things with these vector graphics. But I think personally that Figma is probably the best option if you're trying to simply edit some sort of AI design or images, because the really cool thing that I love about Figma is to be able to select all the colors from the design and play with them. So I think this is really, really cool, and this is why I think I would prefer Figma over Affinity Designer and Inkscape. Not that these softwares are bad. I mean, these two softwares are really good, but it's just that yes, they have a lot of features and they're really complex. But again, like having Affinity Designer and Inkscape are not really necessary. Figma is much simpler and it does the job for what I actually need to do to make designs and put them on Amazon merch. The only bad thing that I don't like personally about Figma is that it's an online editor, and so everything that you do is online. And so if you're importing some sort of big design that has a lot of objects and lots of color, then it becomes really, really messy. But if you keep your design quite simple with not that many colors, then it's easy to work with. Because since it's online, if you bring a big file, it kind of slows down the software and it's not a great experience. But the fact that Affinity Designer and Inkscape are actually offline makes it better to work with bigger files. So personally, what I would do is mainly use Figma, and if I have really big job that Figma is not able to do, then I would probably go back on Affinity Designer, okay? And to be completely honest, I don't think like paying for software is very necessary. I don't think paying for software is necessary, because the idea is that you're able to design and create images with AI. And yes, right now, AI, as of right now, is kind of making mistakes and you kind of have to do a bunch of things. But you see, AI is always improving and getting better. And so, even though right now I'm making these little adjustments, I mean, I'm expecting that in the future I might not have to do these things, okay? And so maybe at some point with AI, I will be able to create designs that don't have any mistakes. Maybe I'll be able to create designs that have transparent background. Maybe at some point I'll be able to create design that have the right dimensions from the beginning. And so maybe that with the advancement of AI, maybe at some point I will no longer need to use any of these software. And so right now I'm using them, but I'm expecting that any moment I could stop using them. And so for now, I think that Figma with the free version is good enough. And those are pretty much my thoughts. I hope that this video was helpful to you, and let me know if you have any question. Okay, peace.